Hi everyone, I'm Siobhan McDonald from Granger Street Studios. Welcome to our program today. I have my head in the clouds because our subject matter today is Love is in the Air. Let's get started. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, so we're going to start this program by looking at paintings with love as the theme. We'll also look at some sweet works of art and play a little trivia game. Many thanks to Right at Home Boston North for sponsoring this program. This is just one of the many ways they help people in our community stay connected. Their caregivers can help improve quality of life wherever you or your loved ones are on life's journey. AgeSpan hosts us every month. They're a nonprofit agency that serves as a trusted, impartial resource, connecting people of all ages and abilities and their caregivers with impartial information, quality services, and vigorous advocacy. From first kisses to tragic romances, our program today abounds with love in all its forms. This work by Giotto from 1305 is considered by many historians to be the first painting of a kiss in art history. The story is of the married couple Joachim and Anne, who, though they're devoted to each other, are deeply unhappy as they are childless, which they take as a sign that they must have been rejected by God. An angel informs Anne that she will conceive while at the same time asking her to meet her husband at the city gate in Jerusalem. On meeting, the couple entwine in joy. They knew from the heavenly messenger that the child would be a queen, powerful on heaven and on earth. These are the parents of the Virgin Mary. Giotto di Bondone, known widely as Giotto, was an Italian painter and architect from Florence during the late Middle Ages. He is generally considered the first in a line of great artists who contributed to the Italian Renaissance. He made a decisive break with the Byzantine style and brought to life the great art of painting as we know it today, introducing the technique of drawing accurately from life, which had been pretty neglected for more than 200 years. On the left, you are looking at a detail from that previous work, and on the right, a portrait of Giotto painted in 1450 by Paolo Lucello. This was done more than 100 years after the death of Giotto, so it is based on written descriptions in the oral history of the time. And just so you can get a better sense of just how revolutionary Giotto's art was, here on the right, you can see Giotto's masterwork, part of the decoration of the Scrovegni Chapel in Padua, commonly called the Arena Chapel. This was completed around 1305. This fresco cycle depicts the life of the Virgin and the life of Christ. It's regarded as one of the supreme masterpieces of the early Renaissance. On the left, you're looking at a fresco from about 125 years earlier. It was said of Giotto that he drew all his figures and their postures according to nature. And so when we're comparing them, we can see a few things. One thing we see is that this painting on the left for this during this Byzantine time, it really wasn't as important to them to have this lifelike quality. So the figures are somewhat flat and stylized. The proportions and the anatomy don't seem quite right. Here on the right, a much more naturalistic look. Love has long been a significant theme in art history. Across cultures and centuries, artists have always sought to capture its essence, how it inspires, torments, and exalts men, women, and even gods. Here is a work that might be familiar to you. Although known as The Birth of Venus, this title was given to the painting only in the 19th century. The composition actually shows the goddess of love and beauty, that's Venus, arriving on land on the island of Cyprus. She's born of the sea spray and blown there by the wind Zephyr, and perhaps this is Aura in his arms, the personification of a lighter breeze. The goddess is standing on a giant scallop shell, as pure and as perfect as a pearl. She's met by a young woman who is sometimes identified as one of the graces of spring, who holds out a cloak covered in flowers. Even the roses blown in by the wind are a reminder of spring. The subject of the painting celebrates Venus as a symbol of love and beauty. There is a language of love in art. There are so many symbols that refer to love in paintings and other forms of art. And we all know there are several different types of love. The love a parent might feel for a child, the love a sibling feels for another sibling, the love you could feel for a dog or a cat, and so much more. But for this program, I'm focusing on romantic love, like the kind you see in this Picasso. And I'm mostly focused on visual art for this program, but this bit of writing is interesting, and I just had to show it to you. The Sumerians are some of the first known people in recorded existence. They lived in southern Mesopotamia, which is now part of Iraq. This is an ancient Sumerian cuneiform tablet, which is basically a piece of baked clay with ancient writing on it. Some have labeled this the world's oldest love poem. It's now on display at the Istanbul Museum of the Ancient Orient. It's an erotic poem addressed to a king by an unnamed female speaker. It's thought that the poem may be connected to a sacred marriage between the king and a priestess. And some of the lines say this: "Bridegroom, let me caress you. My precious caress is more savory than honey. In the bedchamber, honey-filled, let me enjoy your goodly beauty." Wow, that is a very loving poem, isn't it? But works of art in general are rarely ever straightforward. Often they include political, social, even personal symbolism. And of course, that symbolism might look different depending on the time or culture. I'm going to show you a few of those symbols now, like apples. Apples may appear in many different religious traditions, and though they each have their own distinct reference, they all depict the fruit as a symbol of love, desire, and abundance. In Greek mythology, the apple serves as a prominent symbol of courtship. The claddagh symbol is most prominently fashioned into Celtic rings, but appears in other forms of jewelry as well. And this symbol is associated with the Irish folktale of Claddagh, a village outside the city of Galway, in which a young man named Richard, who was out fishing with his family, was captured by pirates and forced into slavery. Richard was constrained to work for a goldsmith, where he inevitably learned the craft of goldsmithing. But every day he stole a speck of gold that he intended to use to make a ring for his beloved, Margaret, who is back home. Richard eventually saved up enough gold specks to craft a ring, in hopes of someday presenting it to his loved one. When he finally escaped, he returned to give the beautiful ring to Margaret, who accepted it lovingly. The claddagh symbol has three components: a crown, which symbolizes loyalty, two hands, which represent a bonded friendship, and a heart, which of course denotes love. The likeness of Cupid, a young boy armed with a bow and arrow, which he uses to pierce people's hearts so that they fall desperately in love, has become a symbol synonymous with Valentine's Day. And doves, of course, they've been long considered symbols of love and peace. Along with their cooing and bowing, courting rituals, doves mate for a lifetime, which has come to symbolize fidelity. In Greek and Roman mythology, doves were sacred animals, and many depictions of the goddess of love featured the white birds fluttering around their bodies. Ancient Greek and Roman cultures associated roses with Aphrodite and Venus, respectively, both goddesses of love. This painting is from 1888, and it shows a group of Roman diners at a banquet being swamped by drifts of pink rose petals that fell from a false ceiling above. As roses were out of season at the time, the artist is said to have had rose petals sent from the south of France each week during the 4 months in which it was painted. There are many more symbols of love that can be found in art, but you might not have heard about this one. The maple leaf is an ancient symbol of love, most notably in China and Japan. Like the sweet sap from its tree, which ultimately produces maple syrup, maple leaves represent the sweetness and wonder of love in daily life. It's time for a little trivia now. Frank Sinatra, Judy Garland, and Elvis Presley all got married in what U.S. city? Let's think about this one. What U.S. city did all of these stars get married in? If you said Las Vegas, you're right. What state produces most of America's red roses? This is kind of a tough one. I'm going to give you a little clue. Think of a state that has a lot of farms and grows a lot of fruits, vegetables, and grapes for wine. That's right, it's California. Which symbol is often associated with Valentine's Day? Besides hearts, of course. Do you think the answer is A, Cupid's arrow, B, a four-leaf clover, or C, crescent moon? If you said A, a Cupid's arrow, you're right. What is the most popular gift given on Valentine's Day? Is it A, flowers, B, jewelry, or C, candy? If you said candy, you're right. Speaking of candy, let's look at this artist. Peter Anton is an American artist and sculptor, and he is obsessed with sweets. Anton is known for his sculptures around the theme of candy and food. Here he is with a couple of his works. And here he is at his studio with some of his chocolate sculptures. He broke the records for attendance at a museum in Connecticut when they showed his work. I guess we're not the only ones who enjoy sweets. Maybe you've seen this painting before. The Kiss is Gustav Klimt's most popular work, and visitors flock annually to see it in Vienna's Austrian Gallery. At a remarkable 6 feet by 6 feet, it's a powerful presence as the life-size figures wrapped in gold embrace. Here are some fun facts about this painting. The post-Victorian society of the early 1900s actually perceived the kiss as shocking because of its explicit depiction of physical intimacy between a man and a woman, which was considered very erotic for the time, especially considering the couple's passionate embrace and the prominent use of gold. Within this conservative Viennese society, many viewers found the level of sensuality to be highly controversial, even though the couple is fully clothed. Despite the outcry that it generated, the kiss sold before the artist had completely finished it. The Belvedere Museum of Vienna, Austria, was the purchaser. Toward the conclusion of World War II, many of Klimt's artworks were destroyed by retreating German troops, but the kiss wasn't, and it remains on exhibit at that museum. Dance in the Country that you see here on the left is one of 3 paintings that Renoir executed that show a couple dancing in different environments. There's an undeniable sense of joy in the painting, which makes it especially romantic. Now, 2 of these works actually have the same model. Suzanne Valadon grew up in poverty with her mother. She did not know her father. Known to be quite independent and rebellious, she attended primary school until age 11, when she began working. She had a series of jobs that included working in a milliner's workshop, at a factory, making funeral wreaths, selling vegetables, and as a waitress. At the age of 15, she obtained a job in her most desired field, performing in the circus as an acrobat, but had to leave after 1 year when she hurt her back. It's commonly believed that Valadon taught herself how to draw at the age of 9. In the Montmartre quarter of Paris, she pursued her interest in art, first working as a model and a muse for artists, observing and learning their techniques as she could not afford art lessons herself. She observed and learned from artists such as Henri Toulouse-Lautrec and Renoir before becoming a noted and successful painter in her own right. She painted still lifes, portraits, flowers, and landscapes that are noted for their strong composition and vibrant colors. She was, however, best known for her candid female portraits and female nudes. Her work attracted attention partly because she upset the social norms of the time that had been created by male artists. She was so loved and respected that many famous artists came to her funeral in 1938, including Pablo Picasso. Now let's take a look at a picture together. What's going on in this picture? You can almost smell the sweet fragrance of honeysuckle emanating from the garden alcove in this full-length portrait by Peter Paul Rubens of Rubens with his new wife, Isabella Brandt. Seated in their garden of love, the painting speaks of a steadfast and tender strength between husband and wife. Honeysuckle is a climbing shrub which hair surrounds, embraces, and protects the newlyweds. Since ancient times, honeysuckle has been the traditional symbol of good feeling, devotion, loyalty, happiness, and everlasting love. Now, although Rubens is sitting higher than his wife on a stool, the painting does suggest that even if they're not exactly a marriage of equals, this is a loving partnership. The central meaning of the painting rests in the clasped right hands of the newlyweds. You can see I have the arrow pointing to Rubens' index finger. He's pointing down to show us those hands that binds them in faithfulness forever, unto and after death. The joining or clasping of the right hands by two people signified harmony, friendship, and loyalty. The motif of two right hands clasped together appears frequently in Roman and Etruscan art, on coins, on fidelity and wedding rings, and on funerary monuments, which feature fidelity after death. This gesture of marriage passed into Christian iconography, and we see it later in Renaissance and Baroque art. Rubens and Isabella are dressed in the fashions of the time, which make pretty evident their high socioeconomic standing. They're members of the affluent in Antwerp society. Rubens is attired as a well-to-do, chivalrous gentleman, a black hat with a gold-colored clasp, a golden satin doublet, a close-fitting padded jacket, the kind worn by men between the 15th and 17th centuries, and a pair of fine yellow-orange silk hose in a cross-legged pose. His left hand rests on this jeweled hilt of his sword. We can see that up here, this hand with the finger pointing. That's his sword right there. Isabella is shown wearing a high-crowned straw hat, an outsized lace ruff, a brocaded bodice, and a wine red taffeta silk skirt. Now let's flash forward about 450 years. This graphic image of love was first created in 1964 in the form of a card which Robert Indiana sent to several friends and acquaintances in the art world. In 1965, he was invited to propose an artwork to be featured on the Museum of Modern Art's annual Christmas card. He submitted several oil-on-canvas variations, and the museum selected the most intense color combination in red, blue, and green. It has become one of the most popular cards the museum has ever offered. In 1966, he worked with a publishing house to make his first love sculpture in aluminum. Since then, it has been released in many different incarnations and sculptural versions in urban centers around the globe. Variants employ the Hebrew, Chinese, Italian, and Spanish languages. These sculptures can be found in city parks, on college campuses, and in museums all around the world. Indiana said he was inspired to use these colors because his father used to work at a Phillips 66 gas station. And you can see this sign on the upper right. Robert Indiana described the original colors as the red and green of that sign against the blue fuchsia sky. It's believed the colors were also inspired by the painting Red, Blue, Green, made by Ellsworth Kelly in 1963. Ellsworth Kelly was his former partner. But I have some good news for you. You can own your own mini love sculpture. They do come up for auction every now and then. This little 18-inch high beauty sold for $840,000 last November. Yikes. There are lots of different love stamps that have been put out by the United States Postal Service, but this Robert Indiana design was the first that started it all in 1973. The American public embraced it, and more than 300 million stamps were printed. Our time is up for today, but I just want to squeak in one final thank you to our host, AgeSpan, and our sponsor, Right at Home Boston North. I'm so grateful to them for allowing me to spend this time with you. I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. I always look forward to getting to spend some time together. I'll see you again next month with some new art and tidbits. In the meantime, I'm Siobhan McDonald from Granger Street Studios saying, take care, people. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. Goodbye, friends. It's time to say goodbye. Goodbye, my friends. See you soon.